Okay, so you just sent us the meme.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I.
So
Mhm.
in essence, these things are like a dime a dozen. You see them all over the internet. They're not uncommon at all, but it's just these kind of dumb little things where somebody's put together a, what would you choose moral dilemma type of thing, but in this case, it's just list six actors and it says one has to go and all of his work. And it's like kind of a, I don't know, would you call it like a Sophie's Choice sort of thing? Kind of, maybe. I don't know, whatever.
Only more choices.
Yeah, more choices. But anyway, I always find these things very easy to do. And at first glance, I found this one to be extremely easy as well, uh, because I didn't, read carefully. But I feel like most of the time when people make these things about actors, they usually say you have to choose one to disappear and then all of their movies. But this one specifically says work. And that's what tripped me up because I don't know about you guys, but out of the six actors on this list, which is Denzel Washington, Morgan Freeman, Samuel L. Jackson, Eddie Murphy, Will Smith, and Lawrence Fishburne. Out of the six of them, um, I mean, I should just say very loud and clear that I absolutely love Eddie Murphy, and I love Eddie Murphy's movies. But if the thing had said
A
all of his
Thousand Words was a
movies,
masterpiece.
yeah, well, I'm just
Yeah,
saying if it
yeah.
had just said movies, that he would have been the easy choice for me because while I love Beverly Hills Cop and I love Coming to America and I love a bunch of his movies, like I think if we, as long as you still had his stand up and his SNL career and half a dozen other things, like his movies would be the one to disappear. I mean, I think the other five have a far better, cinematic filmography, body of work to go on. But when it says all his work specifically, that makes it tough because then now I have to factor in everything else.
Like his stand up and
Yeah, exactly.
which I spent a lot of years rolling on the floor laughing to.
Absolutely. It's fantastic.
Um,
Yeah, not to mention that I think because we often say how comedy gets short shift, like
Yeah.
in the arts or in the movie pantheon and stuff. But entertainment matters. And I say this as someone who was like, very snobbish about wanting substance in my movies.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like if it wasn't for Lawrence Fishburne being in Apocalypse Now, uh, I would I can't. I mean, there's Boys in the Hood too. That was another one. Like if the movies had to go along with the actor, it would be a much tougher choice. But if it's just removing him and recasting that part,
I know. I
then
think that's. Oh, I could be wrong. I don't know about you guys,
yeah,
but
because
I've
if
always
that's it,
believed
that's the
the
case.
idea is that they're.
Unfortunately,
Yeah, it just disappears. Every movie they've ever been in never happened.
oh, yeah. So that
That's
that
what
does
I've
make
always.
it
Yeah.
that does make it a tougher choice because I feel like it's kind of like a comparison of like Lawrence Fishburne is a very good actor, um, but it would be like comparing a role player in the NBA, someone who won a championship several times but wasn't the MVP compared to like Eddie Murphy, who's basically like Michael Jordan. Like there's
Yeah.
just and every movie is in is like nothing without him, close to
Exactly.
nothing.
Yeah. No,
Um,
I could be wrong, but I've always taken this thing and all of it to being that like it doesn't matter if we're talking about. Let me get an example here. Like Samuel L. Jackson was in one tiny scene in True Romance. If you chose Sam Jackson, it means that whole movie never happened. That Quentin Tarantino just never even wrote the thing, just because of this hypothetical meme.
well, that would be the least of my concerns, that movie, but
I just an example, and
yeah, I
how
know.
dare you?
I know. I just say that because I know you like that movie.
I know. I don't know about you guys, but I mean, glancing at this thing, I just immediately said the top row would be safe for me.
The top row.
Yeah, I mean, it was a choice between the bottom three for sure.
Yeah, Denzel Washington, Morgan Freeman, and Sam Jackson. Yeah, that's
Yeah, you
great.
know, I mean, I gotta say, I'm not sure if like definitely Morgan and Sam Jackson. I think you have to stick with because there's some iconic parts there. As much as I know, Denzel is like on the pantheon of like possibly the greatest black actor. I I try to think of a movie of his that I can't live without. Like
What?
yeah, just name some movies because I
What about?
really.
Well, I know, I know from the time we all lived together that Matt and I both like Man on Fire a lot more than you do. But
Yeah, exactly. And
I
Glory, I mean, I can live
I
without.
think Glory would be a great one. You know, I
So,
mean,
but if you put Glory up against Shawshank or even a movie like Seven, which I'm not even a big fan of, I take those two over Glory any time of the week. I'm
oh
trying to think of a
well, sure,
Denzel
I would
movie
too. I
that's.
mean, I
Not
think
any time of the week. I mean, sometimes you
No.
just
well,
sometimes you just
Oh,
want to watch a classic war movie.
yeah, probably. But on a rewatch, I'm not sure. Um,
I mean,
uh,
Inside Man was really good.
nah, it's
American
okay.
Gangster's pretty darn good. Remember the
I haven't
Titans
seen
is
it.
one of the best football movies ever made.
It'll
Yeah,
always
I
be
didn't
second
see that
to
one.
Friday Night Lights.
Well, even if it is second, it's
Yeah.
still a great movie.
Well, I think what it
Uh,
is Denzel is probably the greatest leading man, black actor, but Morgan Freeman and Sam Jackson are these role player actors that have been in some of the most iconic movies in history. Whereas Denzel, I am pressed to think what classic movie, all time great movie he's been in. I'm trying.
Virtuosity.
I, it's.
Why are you guys laughing? No, no, no.
Uh,
But in all seriousness, like I think Morgan Freeman's safe just because of the Nolan Batman trilogy and Shawshank Redemption. Just those four. Well, let's even just say the first two. Like those
Yeah, no, no,
those two
and
those
Sam
two real
Jackson,
or
the Tarantino movies. I mean,
yeah,
Pulp
exactly.
Fiction. I mean, you can't. There's no way.
There's no way. I mean, they're safe and
Yeah,
um
and then if I go to like the bottom row again, Lawrence Fishburne, Apocalypse Now is pretty consequential. Boys in the
yeah,
Hood too.
great movies. Absolutely.
And there's I'm sure there's a few other ones we can bring up.
Well,
But
off the top of, I'm just like glancing real quickly at his
oh yeah,
thing here. I mean, the John Wick sequels were both great. Um, uh, he was in the sequel to Ant-Man and the Wasp, but that's not any big thing to lose. Uh, but the most of the Zack Snyder just is like DC movies would actually be a good thing to lose. But
oh, also, I mean, yeah, come on, the elephant in the room is Matrix.
I was getting to that. I was gonna say,
Yeah.
yeah, the Matrix,
yeah,
would be the whole oh god, Matt. Oh my god. Uh, Mission Impossible 3, which isn't a phenomenal movie, but it's my favorite of the Mission Impossible movies. Um, I mean, he I don't know if this counts, but he's the voice of the Gennaro's bear in the beer commercial in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. I would never want to lose that movie. But I
Yeah,
mean, also Mystic River. I mean, that's an all-time classic, right?
Mystic River. Yeah, the more I think about it, I think Lawan might have been wrong. I think it depends on how you look at it. I think Fishburne is the most replaceable.
Yeah. Well, you're right about that. I mean, like, well, I love Event Horizon too, but it's just tough because I mean, obviously Will Smith's career before, oh, I don't know, a certain date was like outstanding, up until probably, let me see.
Virtuosity. I mean, the only big, significant that Denzel did that I would consider would be Philadelphia. As far
Oh
as
my
like
gosh.
Yeah.
and Malcolm X, which I haven't seen, but I know that, like,
That's a
uh,
good one.
I should see it.
You could cut a chunk out of the beginning and just cut it out probably, but it's a good movie.
Mostly, I think that, like, he just got a lot of props for the performance, and yeah, and it's a very, you know important historical character. But other than that, I'm trying to think of, like, I'm looking at his movies, and it's pretty much Philadelphia. I mean, there's a few other ones,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
it,
I mean, one thing that makes him kind of safe, at least in terms of body of work, not like this is
the
like,
Hurricane, that was a good one.
oh yeah. Also, Roger freaking Deakins shot that,
Yes.
and another movie on his filmography that Roger freaking Deakins shot that is just one of my personal, like, it's something that I brought up that I thought that we should cover on the show at some point. Very underrated, but again, most prophetic movie I think I've ever seen, The Siege.
I was going to mention that one earlier.
Yeah. So
Um,
Yeah.
and I mean, I feel like Will Smith's career, up until probably, I don't know, at least 2007 or so, was pretty darn great, with the exception of Shark Tale and that terrible, terrible cyber or steampunk western that we should not talk about. But yeah, aside from that, pretty darn great.
Yeah, no, I think that would
Has he
be tough
fallen
for me.
off? Yes, but
Well, Will Smith would be tough for me because yeah, I obviously Independence Day is a big
yeah,
one.
for sure.
And but actually not much more than that.
You
Yeah,
didn't like
he's
6 Degrees of Separation?
no, I guess
Mm.
not. I didn't see it.
You should
Men in
definitely see it.
Black was okay. Bad Boys I was never a big fan of. I kind of liked
That boy's great.
I kind of like I Am Legend.
Yeah,
That's
that's a good
good.
one.
Pursuit
Enemy
of
of the State?
Happiness. Enemy of the State, I think I saw. I think it was okay. Um,
Legend of Bagger Vance?
yeah, you know what? Will Smith's on the edge here. Like, aside from but I think he's safe because of Independence Day.
Right?
I yeah, I think I would have to come down, like, what do I want to let go? Independence Day or Philadelphia? And I think, unfortunately, Philadelphia has to get the axe. Because
wow.
I mean, personally, Eddie Murphy, I mean, like Matt said, aside from the stand-up that's very consequential history-wise, I mean, some of his movies, like, he was my Jim Carrey before there was Jim Carrey. Like, he in the 80s, it's every movie of his that I watched was, and in the 90s too, by the way, like,
Oh,
like
yeah.
the first few, like the first, what you call it, the with the fat suit and stuff. Forgot the
The Nutty Professor.
Nutty Professor. Like, the first one was like really funny.
I could live without that one.
Yeah, no, but I mean, like, I have a few
Yeah,
favorites of his that it's just the amount of joy that they gave me in my childhood
for
are
sure.
just immeasurable.
Yeah.
Although I wasn't a big fan of Beverly Hills Cop. I mean, I know it's
Oh,
an
it's a
iconic
great one.
role, but that's just
I'm gonna.
okay.
I'll say something a little controversial. I Not only do I love Beverly Hills Cop, and I really, really like Beverly Hills Cop 2, I don't think Beverly Hills Cop 3 is that bad. I
Hmm.
mean, it sucks that that one character doesn't come back. I can't remember his name at the moment, but yeah. I mean, it's not an unwatchable movie. It's not too bad, really.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely
Oh man, we
don't
would lose
didn't mind it.
Mulan. That would suck.
Yeah, but just between Coming to America and The Golden Child was one of my favorite
Yeah.
Eddie Murphy
Oh,
movies.
also Shrek.
Shrek,
Eh,
that's a
I'd be more upset about losing Mulan than the entire Shrek franchise.
Yeah.
but yeah, you're right. I mean, if it wasn't for the stand-up, it would be a close call for me between him and Denzel, um, for sure. But I guess at this point, it's funny. The more you look into it, the more you think there's options available. The question is, who do you think is the most untouchable?
I would say Morgan Freeman for me.
I mean
And
what's
then
more?
followed by Sam Jackson.
What's like either of theirs like most important movie? I guess it would be Shawshank.
For Morgan Freeman, I'd say it's a pretty close one between Shawshank and The Dark Knight.
Oh, The Dark Knight. That's true. Those are two big ones. And then Sam is definitely Pulp Fiction, top
For
two.
sure.
And
Yeah.
what was another one? Oh,
Well,
one that I'm a
practically every Marvel movie.
Yeah, but none of them are consequential. One that I just started reading the book because I like the movie so much, and I just thought it was like a fun way to revisit it. Is A Time to Kill.
Great.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those
that's
movies where I cried in.
I love the end of that movie. It's so good.
Yeah.
They should
But
show that movie more.
even though like it's not I actually heard the story about how
McConaughey?
McConaughey, how he got that role, because he wasn't really a made actor yet at that point.
Yeah.
And apparently he auditioned for a different part, like a smaller part in the movie, and then he asked Paul Verhoeven, I think was the director. He said, "So who's playing the
No, it's Francis
lawyer?"
Ford Coppola. No, you're right. I was thinking of The Rainmaker.
Rainmaker, yeah. Oh no, I think it was Joel Schumacher, not Paul Verhoeven.
Joel Schumacher. Yeah,
I'm
that's
confusing my German directors or something. I think they're both German. But in any case, yeah. So he said that like he said like, so who's playing the lawyer and blah blah blah. He's like, so who do you think should play it? And he was like, me. and then he laughed out loud and he said like, yeah, I wish that could happen, but there's no way the studio is gonna let me do that because they need like a named actor for this. And then he said something happened. A few months went by, and then Sandra Bullock, that was associated with the movie, got big because a big movie of hers came out or something. So she was bankable, and all of a sudden they had a big star in the movie. So they didn't. It took the weight off of that role, so they could take a chance with it. And then and apparently John Grisham had in his contract that he needs to authorize who's going to act, and the else is, so as long as he's okay with it, it would go for it. So he auditioned for John Grisham and Joel Schumacher, and they gave it a go, and it worked out. Wow. It made him a star. And Sam Jackson is heartbreaking in that movie.
He's outstanding in it. Yeah. I mean, just throwing this out there, you'd also lose the Star Wars prequel trilogy.
Yeah, which it would be less of a concern, but it's definitely something.
It's better than the sequels.
You'd lose Rules of Engagement and Deep Blue Sea, which Deep Blue Sea is one of the best shark movies that they've ever made, for sure.
Yeah. So,
man, I haven't seen Rules of Engagement in like probably 18 years now or something.
I don't think I've seen it in at least 15.
Okay, yeah. Guy Pearce was really good in that.
Yes, he was very good. Oh man, we would lose a Long Kiss Goodnight, or the Long Kiss Goodnight, and
Gina Davis
and Sphere.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Can't lose Sphere. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sam Jackson's safe. Absolutely. Well, I think we agreed that he's safe.
Well, I guess at this point we can probably even like rank them if we're doing this. So
there's only 6.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's see if we can come to a consensus, because we usually just rank ourselves. But I think we can agree that it's either Sam or Morgan for the top 2 spots. Probably Sam for me is a little higher, or at least he's got a longer filmography that's worth salvaging.
Don't forget about Driving Miss Daisy.
That's true. Although again, less for me personally than the other ones. But and then after Morgan, yeah, I guess it might have to be Lawrence Fishburne. I mean, I really think Apocalypse Now and Boys in the Hood, and there's a few other things we mentioned. Those are very consequential.
Hmm.
It'll be a toss for me with Will Smith only because of Independence Day, just because that movie
Yeah.
was my childhood.
So I'll just say this: I was glancing at his filmography right now, and Will Smith's career from when he started acting in movies up to about 2007 are all movies I enjoy watching, with the exception of Wild Wild West and Shark Tale, which I thought were both pretty bad. But everything else is pretty much watchable, if not really good. But all that being said, they're all fun, kind of popcorn kind of movies. They're all pretty good. If it weren't for Independence Day, even though I like all of those movies, he would be the easiest one to get rid of. That one movie alone is what's really holding it back from putting him in the very last spot.
Yeah, and then the only thing for me that's I would probably put um, Fishburne over him is The Matrix. Like if you Boys in the Hood, Matrix, and Apocalypse Now, that's a trifecta. Like those are pretty consequential movies, and Will Smith only has one that's mostly consequential to me, not to the world of cinema as much. So if I'm trying to be more objective about it, then probably Will Smith would be fourth for me personally. Um, would either of you put Denzel like ahead of those two?
I'm sorry, ahead of which two?
Ahead of Fishburne and Smith.
I probably would, but not by a lot. I mean, yeah, I probably would.
In terms of filmography, I would definitely put him in front of Will Smith. But
In front of Will Smith. Oh yes, that's
no,
true.
in terms of both acting ability and filmography, I would put
Yeah, no, both. Yeah. So, but Fishburne, um, how would you put him in front of Fishburne as far as like his movies? I mean, I know he made more movies or more, especially leading roles, but the movies that Fishburne does have, I feel like, aside from I guess The Matrix you don't like, but um,
yeah.
I'm sorry, you're comparing Lawrence Fishburne and which one?
a Denzel,
Oh,
because we established he's probably higher for both of you than Will Smith, maybe.
yeah. So for me, um, the difficult the difficult thing for me with Lawrence Fishburne is the Matrix movie, because I love the first Matrix movie. I love it, and Apocalypse Now is fantastic. But once you take those two out, really what I'm like thinking about that I really would never want to lose would be like kind of silly stuff like yeah, Event Horizon. That one I just love so much. But you know, I oh, and Mystic River. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those four would be, and if we're being really technical,
Oh,
if
Mystic
we have to
River, yeah.
lose, I'm just looking at it again now. It just reminded what I said earlier. If we technically have to lose Kiss Kiss Bang Bang just because his voice was the bear in the commercial, that would suck too.
Wow.
Yeah.
That would be like four that I could four or five at that point that I'd be hard pressed to live without.
So
Because
I guess I mean it is interesting that whatever order we put these in, it sounds like Will Smith and Eddie Murphy would be the bottom two for all of us.
well, see,
Looks like
that's the problem.
Oh, no, sorry. Actually,
Are
Denzel
we
would be the lowest for me, but I mean,
yeah,
yeah.
are we including all of Eddie Murphy's non-movies? Like all of the work he's done outside of movies, because that's what the meme says. And that would be pretty hard for me.
Um, yeah, no,
yeah.
I would definitely put him over Denzel. I'm not 100%, but if I thought hard about it, especially if it's the stand up, I would probably put
Uh,
Denzel on the bottom.
Hmm.
okay. Uh, I love Eddie Murphy's stand up so much that I think that basically where I'm standing right now is if it's between it's basically just going to be between Eddie Murphy and Will Smith for me. And if we are including the stand-up, it just flips, and I just got to cut Will Smith.
I think that might be how I feel too. Like that I would, if we're just talking about movies, Eddie would have to go. And if we're including everything he's ever done, including all his SNL sketches and everything, like, I mean, I'd probably have to say that Independence Day was not enough to hold all that back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean that's a good argument. But it is interesting that the two comedic actors ended up on the bottom, at least for the two of you.
Yeah.
And then
No.
I have like the biggest actor at the bottom, which is also weird.
Yeah.
It's even weirder to some degree, but maybe that's something to be said. I don't know, because obviously like there is that racial component that maybe black actors historically haven't been given enough leading roles in substantial movies, and that maybe Denzel, who's mostly a leading man, has been mostly in very good movies, but not all-time classics. Where the other ones that were more, especially Morgan Sam and Lawrence Fishburne, that played
had a lot
more
of character actors,
smaller parts, stumbled onto, and they were very, very good. They stumbled onto all-time classics that, as often the case, will have like a leading white actor, or in Apocalypse Now is Marlon Brando and Martin Sheen, and like a Pulp Fiction.
It's an interesting point. Yeah,
Sam Jackson. I mean, he's a co-star essentially in Pulp Fiction. So
yeah.
I mean, and that's an all-time great movie. So if anything, yeah,
I'd
and
say
also
he was
Morgan,
a co-star in Time to Kill too.
Yeah, and Morgan Freeman is totally a co-star in I think in Shawshank. Like he makes that movie.
Oh, for sure.
That movie would not be the same if they cast an actual Red.
Yeah. Right.
Well put.
Yeah.
So I mean, even though they're more famous for being playing smaller parts, the roles that made them, they were essentially co-stars, but they weren't leading man in the sense of like the way Denzel tends to be.
Yeah.
And by the way, Will Smith and Eddie Murphy also, like, they're also kind of like leading men in the stuff that they're in.
Sure, absolutely.